Hello everybody who is watching and welcome to another episode of the ToniSport Newsfeed. Today I want to talk with you about steel chassis plates for touring cars and fronty cars, which are quite famous right at the moment. Where do we start? In the past, almost every 110 scale electric on-road car was based on a solid carbon fiber chassis. These kind of chassis, they are super flexible. They can absorb a lot of energy in case of a crash, and they also create a good amount of traction on track because of their flex characteristics, and they also look very nice, very racy. As we all know, carbon fiber is the material of the racers normally. This was the chassis plate all the cars were using for many years, until some companies then started to make aluminum chassis plates for their race cars. At first they started to produce relatively thick aluminum chassis, 2.5 millimeter or 2.2 millimeter thick. And the reason to test aluminum chassis was especially for high grip conditions, where the less amount of flex was resulting in a car which felt more easy to drive, a little bit more stable in these high traction conditions. The chassis prevented the car from traction rolling on carpet and all these things. And one super interesting side effect of an aluminum chassis was the higher weight. So just for example, the carbon chassis, they normally are around 70 grams. And when the first aluminum chassis came out, they reached a mark of 100 or 110 grams. So the chassis was heavier, which resulted in more weight being placed on the lowest part of the car, which is the chassis plate, and resulted in a super low center of gravity. So you had a lot of benefits in one item: a lower center of gravity, a better handling on high grip conditions, and a great tuning option just to have it together with the carbon chassis. This was what we had since many years in the past. And I think 2 or 3 years ago, Automatics came around the corner and had a steel chassis in their car. Just for some reasons, they tested it and found out that it handled very good. Since a long time, Automatics was more or less the only company who was using a steel chassis. Other manufacturers, they tried some prototypes, but they never released an official steel chassis for their car. So this is for X-Ray, for Mugen Seiki, for Schumacher and all the other brands. And this was maybe one interesting benefit Automatics had as an option for a long time. And when we talked to the Automatics guys and also to other manufacturers, everybody reported that it was one of the main reasons to not bring out a steel chassis is the very complex and difficult manufacturing process, because the steel chassis is very hard. And the material is not easy to work on, especially when you want to hit the demands of 110 scale electric on-road racers, because the steel chassis which are now on the market, which we are talking later about, they are even thinner than a carbon or an aluminum chassis. Most of the steel chassis plates, they are coming with a thickness of 1.2 millimeters only. So it's very thin. The reason for that is also very clear. A steel chassis is way more heavy than aluminum or carbon fiber, and if you would produce it as a 2 millimeter or 1.5 millimeter chassis, it would just become too heavy and it will not flex anymore at all. So with the combination of a 1.2 millimeter material thickness and an acceptable weight, the companies have now achieved steel chassis which you can use in your race car with a good handling and even more benefits, because as you can see, you can feel it immediately when you hold the steel chassis plate in your hands. This is my steel chassis which I got from this company here, from WeiRC, Chinese-based cool guy who is producing steel chassis now for many cars, and we have most of them already in our shop. But yeah, once you get your first steel chassis in hands, you immediately feel that it's way more heavy than carbon or aluminum. And when you put them on the scales, we can do it together now here. I have an old carbon chassis here from the MTC2. This has a weight of 67 grams. And most of the old school aluminum chassis, they had been about 100 grams with a 2 mm thickness. I have here the original Mugen Seiki MTC3 kit aluminum chassis, which is also very thin, 1.5 millimeters, so it's super light. This aluminum chassis here is at 74 grams, so it's super light for an aluminum chassis. But when you now compare the 74 grams from the aluminum chassis here with the steel chassis for the car, it's like day and night, because the steel chassis here from WeiRC comes at 146 grams. So it doubles up the weight of the aluminum chassis and also doubles up the weight, more than doubles up the weight of a carbon fiber chassis. So what does it mean? You will have a very heavy chassis, which means that a lot of weight goes down into the chassis plate and you have the lowest possible center of gravity that you can have in your race car. So this is the major aspect why you should maybe think about trying a steel chassis in the future. The next aspect, okay, the chassis is very thin, and in combination with different setups on the car and also with different flex settings regarding the top deck and the motor mount screws and everything else, you can still make the chassis work, because it still can flex a little bit here in your hands. It feels really good, and when you get the setup right, you can also remove most of your additional weights you have in the car. I mean, nowadays it's like you put in so many weights in your car to reach the weight limit of 1300 or 1320 grams, and you can remove almost all of them. For sure, then you have not so much possibilities to play around with the weights which you place in the car normally, but you can remove them all and have a solid and very heavy chassis plate which lowers the center of gravity on track. The question now is, why and when should you try a chassis like this? And are there also disadvantages when running a steel chassis? Because it's like every part in a race car, it's always kind of a compromise. When should you choose carbon? When should you choose aluminum? And when should you choose a steel chassis? So before I talk about that, I want to point out that I have never driven a car with a steel chassis until now. So this is my first one. I will put it in my MTC3 and race it as soon as I will see a racetrack again. Maybe not in this winter season, but latestly when we will hit the asphalt tracks outdoors again. So let's see, but I will keep you updated about it. And I can now only report what I know from other racers, from other team drivers, from some of the Mugen guys, and also from people I talk to at the ETS and other races frequently. First of all, a carbon chassis is always working. You can use it on asphalt, on low grip, on medium grip, also on high grip on asphalt. And you can also get a carbon chassis to work very good on carpet when you make the right setup changes. So a carpet chassis is always a solid base. And when you only want to have one car with one chassis and you want to race it on carpet, on asphalt and everywhere, then just buy the car with a carbon chassis and don't think about it too much anymore, because a carbon chassis is always a good choice and you can race on all the surfaces with it. The same is with aluminum chassis. In the past, with the more heavy and thick aluminum chassis, the chassis plates had mostly been in use on carpet only when the traction was really high, but most of the drivers, they were not using the aluminum chassis on asphalt because it was just working in a super small setup window when the conditions have been perfect. For aluminum chassis it was in use, but it was not that much. But now, as the aluminum chassis became thinner and thinner, some more drivers used them on asphalt because the characteristics when driving on track was almost the same like with a carbon chassis. But in this case, you can always ask the same. When the carbon and the aluminum chassis have the same weight, you have not the benefit of the lower center of gravity anymore. You just have a little bit different flex characteristics in the chassis plates, and this is why many racers still were opting to run a carbon chassis over an aluminum chassis when it's at almost the same weight. But now with the steel chassis option, everything has changed again, because the steel chassis is also very thin, it lowers the center of gravity, and it's so much more heavy compared to carbon or aluminum that it's something really different. And I know from many drivers, they told me once they had the correct setup for the steel chassis car, the car was so much more easy to drive compared to carbon or to aluminum. And this was a reason for many drivers to use a steel chassis. They told me that they can push the car harder, that it's always feeling more flat, connected to the ground due to the low center of gravity. So this was maybe the biggest benefit which all the racers reported. So this is, I think, the biggest benefit when you're trying a steel chassis. You can expect a car which feels planted, which feels solid on track, and which still provides good corner speed and great performance overall. So if you have the chance to get your hands on a steel chassis for your car and you want to invest some coins, just do it and try it out. It will work on carpet, it will work on asphalt, but there are for sure conditions when the traction is maybe super low, the track is dusty, a windy day, and you don't expect the track to improve a lot because of a low attendance on the track or a race with a low number of entries. Sometimes the track is just not getting better and better during the day, and then maybe you will not be as fast with a steel chassis as with the good old carbon chassis, because this will always work in low grip conditions, and we all know this. So please don't get me wrong. I will not tell you that a steel chassis is better everywhere, but in theory, with the low center of gravity it provides, it's a big thing and something to play around with. And I think when you have the perfect setup in all the cars, you maybe can go a little bit faster with a steel chassis when everything is perfect. But on the other side, we had a great race at the ETS in Luxembourg, where we had a great fight in the A-main with Michal Orlowski, Bruno Coelho, Mark Reinhardt, Ronald Volker, Lucas Urbain, and all these top guys. And in the end, I know that Lucas was running his steel chassis Osomatics car. He was crazy fast. The car looked super good on track. But in the end, Bruno Coelho won with the Infinity, and he used a carbon fiber chassis. So that shows that you can work out the perfect setup for your car and for the track you're racing on, no matter if you're using steel, aluminum or carbon chassis in your car. It just needs time and work to get all the cars to a good performance on track with all these three chassis types which are available now. But I think that many drivers will like a steel chassis. It doesn't scratch so much on the bottom. It always looks nice, even when it has some scratches on. And I know that some guys, they go crazy when they see the first scratches in their alu chassis or in their carbon chassis. With a steel chassis, it's maybe a little bit more easy. And last but not least, something about the durability. I mean, all the chassis plates have their pros and cons, and maybe the chassis with the longest lifetime is always a carbon chassis, because it is flexing a little bit more. Also in a crash, it can absorb more energy in a crash before it gets bent. And the good thing with a carbon fiber chassis, you can normally easily see when it's damaged, because it will crack somewhere and you can see it. With steel or aluminum, it's a different story. The chassis can be slightly bent, but you will maybe not notice it immediately. And then you have to always check your car and check if the chassis is still in a perfect condition. Aluminum chassis performs good also on asphalt, but it is more sensitive to scratches, especially when you're riding curbs. The aluminum gets scratched away relatively quick, and the chassis is also wearing out a lot on asphalt. On carpet it's not a problem, but aluminum is still the medium choice between carbon and steel. Yeah, and with a steel chassis, it might sound like a steel chassis will have a lifetime forever, and it seems that you cannot destroy it, but this is maybe only because when you hear the word steel, you think, oh, it's the most durable you can have and you cannot break it. I promise you can. I saw many pictures and some videos from bigger international races where people had crazy fly-offs off the track, and their cars had been completely destroyed after super hard impacts. And also the steel chassis they had in use in their cars had been completely bent, completely in waves. And this is because the material is not very thick and the forces we have in RC racing are really big, and when you hit something really hard you can also damage a steel chassis. For sure you can use some tools to bend it backwards to get it straight again. I know that many racers have already done it and used the chassis again after getting it back to a perfect shape in the garage. So it's possible, and don't freak out when the chassis is maybe not 100% straight all the time. You can do a lot with your setup system, with your tweak station to make it going good on track, even if it's maybe a little bit bent. But yeah, this is all I can tell you right now about the steel chassis. Carbon will last forever. Carbon is not dead. You can always use a carbon chassis in your car and race at a good level of speed in every competition. Aluminum is now the compromise between carbon and steel. It performs amazingly well on carpet and also on many asphalt tracks. So if you have an aluminum chassis car, you can still keep it as it is. But if you want to try something new, if you want to get the latest and greatest bling bling item for your car, check the steel chassis we offer from WeiRC. We have it for X-Ray 25 and X-Ray 26 touring car. We have it for the Mugen MTC3. We offer it for the Schumacher MI9. We have it for Osomatics A800RR. We have it also for the Tamiya TRF 421. And we have it for RC Maker SP1, Schumacher front wheel drive FT9, and also for the Osomatics A800 FXR fronty car. So we have many chassis of them available. Always make sure that you also order the screw set which you need together with the chassis plate. The countersunkings here in the chassis are a little bit different due to the production process the steel chassis requires. So you need special screw sets to make them fit together with the parts of your car and your chassis, and then you can use it. Yeah, and we offer them as a set, chassis and screw sets together, and then yeah, you just have to use the perfect screws, and then you can build your car on one of these very, very beautiful and super nice machine chassis plates. Once they arrived, we checked all of them. They had been perfectly straight on our glass boards. We checked them, and the quality looks really good. I know that some people are talking about the type of steel which is used when producing a steel chassis. I have no idea about it, so I cannot tell you something about the number or the exact steel which is in use here. But yeah, it feels good. It feels like steel. It's heavy. And the quality feels also really good. So that was a quick talk about steel chassis compared to aluminum and carbon fiber. If you have already used a steel chassis in your car, please write in the comments below what you think, what your experiences are with a steel chassis. Do you like it or not? Do you think you can go faster with carbon or aluminum? Let me know which chassis you are using and why. And yeah, I hope that you will have a lot of fun in the future with a steel chassis or with one of the others. The most important thing is that you don't stop racing. We need to keep pushing RC racing forward, and I will maybe give you kind of an update when I have driven one of the steel chassis in my car, but that may take some time until I will hit the track again. Yeah, but as I said before, let me know what you think about steel chassis. Do we need it? Do we not need it in the world of RC? I think it's really nice and sexy, and I'm looking forward to try it soon on track. Yeah, that's it for the moment, guys. If you like, just leave some comments here. Also, like our channel and follow, and then we will have a great time together. Always make sure that you don't miss one of our next video clips. And all I can say now is that I really enjoyed making this video for you guys. It was a quick one here without a lot of special effects behind me going on. And thanks for watching at the moment. We see us in one of our next ToniSport Newsfeed videos. And thanks for watching. Once again, have a great day, guys, and goodbye.